All right. Wait. How's it going, guys? It is Otakushinsaku, back again. I know it's been a long time. I was sick for a while and stuff like that. I'm finally feeling better. And so I'm back again to give you guys some more video reactions. And we're gonna get right into it. This video reaction for this video is famous servants FGO missed out on. So, without further ado, you guys have waited long enough for another video. Here we go.
Listen, man. So there's a lot of people, a lot of big names that we should have already come across. And then there's a lot of big names in the series that we've met already that are stuck in NPC jail. Go figure. We got the new thread. Big name servants that have yet to make their debut. From the original Fate Stay Night, we got famous heroic spirits like King Arthur, Heracles, Gilgamesh, Cuchulainn, Medusa, and the most famous one of them all, Ymir. That was crazy work you just did with your mouth right there. Fast forward 20 years in the future and we have 300 plus servants in FGO alone. So I'm curious, is there any more famous servants that have yet to appear? Or do we have them already? Who's the most famous heroic spirit that has yet to come to the world of Fate? Ones that you're shocked haven't been made into a servant yet. By the way, if you haven't already, make sure you guys sign up for the Patreon. You get access to early content and priority on your request. And there's a lot of people like this. This kind of just goes back into that conversation of, do they take too long to make good on their promises? And are they actually going to come back around on that, or just continue to leave that uncooked? There's a ton of huge figures that we should have had already.
Before he goes on, I just want to say that even with 300 plus servants, like 400, like 300, 400, how many we have right now, uh, I still believe that there's a bunch that FGO missed out on because to me, the problem that Type Moon has is that Nasu is clearly, and there's nothing wrong with it, clearly a huge fan of his culture because of the fact that there is an overwhelming amount of Japanese servants versus servants of other cultures. Like, for example, I'm Irish. We only have a handful of Irish heroes to be summoned. That could really be improved. We can get some more Italians in there. Basically, like, but with the history of the entire world, there is more than just 300 famous people in just history alone. We're not even talking about mythology, which FGO has clearly shown you can summon people that are straight up fictional. You can literally summon Sherlock Holmes. Like, Sherlock Holmes is a I don't I don't need I don't mean to burst your bubble if you know, are like, well, Sherlock Holmes. No, he's a completely fictional, completely made up character. And so, between the realm of famous literary characters and famous historical characters throughout the entirety of human history, there is more than 300, 400 you could pick from, especially if you start focusing on other cultures than just Japan and China. So, like, for example, America doesn't have a lot of servants, and I get it. Like, I'm obviously friends with other Fate fans and stuff like that, and I get it. They told me straight up that, like, well, America is too young of a country, with the rule of mystery and everything. It's like, sure, the United States of America is, but when I say America, I'm talking about the continent, not the country. I'm talking about the continent. Are you seriously going to sit here and tell me that throughout the entirety of human history, the continent, as far north as Alaska to as far south as the southern part of South America, the most southern part of South America, between those, the entire continent that we call America, North and South America, you seriously going to tell me that we only have like four or five people you can make servants out of? Bullshit, right? No. we can get more love for over here in America in the West, right? We can get a lot more love. There's a lot more British servants you can pick. I mean, the British Empire, like the sun never set on the British Empire for like what, like hundreds of years. You can get a lot more people from the British Empire. You can get a lot more people from Europe and stuff like that. Like there's so many more characters to be added. The fact that people think that with like 300 plus that we've hit the max, no. To me, the maximum is not even anywhere near close to 1,000. Like to me, the ceiling for the amount of servants that FGO can, have, if you want to really ask me, like the closest guess, like just off the top of my head, the closest guess I would say is like 100,000 plus servants. Like 100,000 servants would be closer to the more realistic number, like of famous heroes from various cultures. Because again, what is famous to me and what is famous to you are completely different. Like if you and I were born in Thailand, we would probably have there would probably be a bunch of Taiwanese heroic people throughout their history that could be added to the game, for example. So obviously as an American, I really think about the characters from my history, from my country's history. But I just want more. Like there needs to be more. So no, 300 plus servants is nowhere near the cap. We can add more. Again, like we are like again, I don't need to start worrying about the maximum amount of servants until we hit like 100k plus. Like because we're talking about the entirety of human history. And we're talking about the entirety of human history that, as shown by Fate, goes all the way back to fucking Gilgamesh. So, if Gilgamesh is the starting point by Fate standards, by Fate's ruling and Fate's telling, Gilgamesh is the first hero. So between him and modern day with Shiro Emiya, in 2004, 2000, like in modern day with Shiro Emiya, because he's supposedly the last servant to be added, quote unquote, whatever, right? Between, like, or whatever, or, even if he's not the last servant, because again, through Foreigner, we get literally a fucking satellite that's made into a servant in the, when it comes to Voyager. So, yeah, between Gilgamesh and literally the USS, in between that and literally the Voyager satellite, right? Between those two times, there is a fuck megaton amount of history and historical people that could be turned into servants. So we're not even close to the limit.
And I'm really surprised that we haven't seen, more than likely because we're not far enough into the story yet, but I think there's some, just given the people that they chose to work with already, that they don't plan on using at all. In FGO in particular. Now I can't speak on what they're gonna do with other series, but as far as FGO,
I was gonna say that is a great point. That is a great point. Because a lot of people, like, including myself, use FGO because that's the one where they're constantly adding new servants. But as shown by things like Samurai Remnant, Fate can add more servants through other stories and other means. So don't sit here and go, oh, there's servants, don't sit here and think that, oh, because of the story of FGO, this servant or that servant can't be added to the, Throne of Heroes. No. Again, never count any historical or even, again, literary character out completely of the potential pool of Throne of Heroes summons because of the fact that FGO is not the only Fate story. Again, they could come out with a Samurai Remnant 2 or an even completely a different game and introduce servants that way. So FGO is not the only thing that can be used by Type Moon to potentially add servants to this summoning pool.
Goes, it's hard to reason certain figures at this point, like a lot of biblical figures, for example. But who knows? They did.
He said biblical figures. I want to push back because I hope he brings up the fact that they literally made Noah from Noah's Ark as summon. Noah from Noah's Ark is a summon. So they already have started taking characters from the Bible, right? And it's of course Noah's Ark. Noah is one of the more famous ones. Obviously, another one that they added is fuck uh David from David and Goliath. So they also took him. So we have David from the Bible as well. So they already have started taking, some characters from the Bible and added them to the summoning pool. So again, even characters from literally the Bible can be added. I'm still waiting for them to make Jesus a summon. And a lot of people say, well, how would you make Jesus a summon? Well, they literally have a Messiah class. Like they literally have a Messiah class. Again, that's where Buddha is, right? Buddha is summoned as a Messiah class. So you again, under that same class, you could summon Jesus. I'm really, really hoping that they do, because normally I would say maybe it's because they're scared of like maybe potentially offending like Christians or whatever. But honestly, at the same time, we're talking about Japan, the same culture that gave us an anime where Jesus was living like a slice of life style anime. So it's like, like living a slice of lifestyle show, in an anime. Like, Jesus has already been depicted in various anime forms in Japan. So it's not like Japan as a culture is very hands off with the Bible. So I'm just hoping that they do, because I think that Savior class. I'm sorry, not Messiah class. I'm sorry, Savior class. Jesus as a Savior class will be fucking awesome.
Hit us with the random pseudo version of Noah out of FGO Arcade for no apparent reason at all. So all hope isn't lost just yet. As far as the most famous person goes, that's a really good question, because it would have to be somebody that everybody knows. Even if you don't know them, you've at least heard of them in name. Mr. Worldwide themselves. And that's across every culture. The problem is every culture isn't as perpetuated as all the others, especially.
Well, and that's why, again, I say Jesus as a Savior class would be fucking badass, because, let's be honest, every part of the planet, outside of literally the most remote tribes that still have not been contacted, have heard about Jesus. Through the evangelizing that Christians and Catholics have done throughout the entire history of the world, Jesus, if there's any specific person that is known literally worldwide outside of fucking Santa Claus, is Jesus. And so Jesus's fame rank has to be like EX. Like, Jesus' fame rank has to be like EX, because again, unless you are literally a remote tribe that has like 20 people to it or whatever, like, you know about Jesus. Like, somebody has told you about the good word of Jesus. So it's like, dude, I'm just sitting here waiting for them to act. I'm just sitting here and waiting for Type Moon to pull that trigger and just be like, fine, we're gonna put Jesus in it.
Depending on where you're from. Like, I for sure wouldn't have learned about a lot of these people if I didn't do that deep dive myself, because they're not really put out there like that. But taking this into account, if I look up the most famous person in myth right now, it gives me Odysseus and Heracles. Now, for Odysseus, I was surprised that it gave him, because it feels like the background of Odysseus would be very pocketed to the Western world, at least as far as I could tell. If I take Odysseus to the East, I don't think they really give a fuck about Odysseus like that. And we already have Odysseus, and even when he was released, I don't think he had as much impact as he should have, and I definitely don't think that he had as much impact as other characters. As a matter of fact, when we talk about LB5, the star of the show, usually the one that I hear the most isn't Odysseus, it's Jason, it's Wotame. It's damn near everybody but Odysseus, which is kind of weird considering that he's the great bulk of a lot of things that we had to overcome. A part of that is the burden of being the opposing force. You know, people only root for the good guy, and then him not being what people wanted him to be, they latch on to that and ignore everything else. Even if you were to consider the Odyssey and the Iliad poems, yeah, that's really ingrained with us in the West, but how far does that go really? For example, if you look into the Japanese counterpart for Odysseus, you come up with Yuri Waka. I've never heard of this man. I've never even heard anybody mention this man. Yuri Waka, a retelling of Homer's Odyssey in which Odysseus is transformed into Yuri Waka, the strongest man in Japan, who commands the emperor's ships battling the pirates of Shiragi. So if this holds to be true, and Kawa is just as famous on the other side, then Odysseus definitely deserved a better rollout. But for Heracles, I kind of understand. If at least you haven't heard about Heracles in myth itself, you've heard of this towering, indestructible figure that's just bigger and badder than everybody else. Even if you take that to Hindu, you have people like Bhima, for instance. If you look up the most famous mythical pantheon, of course, we come up with Greek. Arguably the most famous mythology of all, Greek mythology features a colorful cast of central deities. Some of the most well-known among them include Zeus, god of the sky and thunder, and ruler of all the other gods, Hera, goddess of marriage, women and childbirth, as well as the wife of Zeus. Zeus is in fact a character that's stuck in NPC jail. I don't know how they would be able to get him out considering how powerful he is, but that's definitely somebody to consider. As far as Hera goes, in LB5 we did get the Europa Hera mix-up, which I wouldn't necessarily say that that's her given how dominant Europa seems to be in that character, but at least we have some form of her. If you ask me, I honestly would have said King Arthur, because if you know nothing, you would have at least heard it in name or in motif. Even in the East, if you go to Japan, they have their counterpart to King Arthur. It's Yamato Takeru, who we just recently got, so that's not somebody to even look for anymore. Now, to get into the comments, the first person on that list we have is Abe. Abe no Seimei appeared in Lost Belt 5.5, but he still hasn't been made into a servant. I wonder why, seeing he is the most famous onmyoji in Japan. Yeah, Seimei is somebody that's been put into the works for a very long time. I mean, going all the way back into Shimosa, we've been hinting at Seimei for forever. When Domen was pretending to be him, Abe no Seimei, guardian of Kyoto, and a genius among the onmyoji. He was a legend, the highest rank of astrologers, and a master of yin and yang techniques. It's said he even knew secret spells that could bring the dead back to life. It's also said that a man with that true name defeated the white-faced nine-tailed fox, one of the three great monsters that threaten all of Japan. And this just assumes that Seimei is that person because it did say the person with that true name. Our version of Seimei being said to have taken down Amaterasu is some crazy shit. Amaterasu is one of the greatest big bads that we have. She's up there with the types, she's up there with chaos, she's up there with the umbral star. So not only should he be one of the greatest mages, on paper he should be the best mage, barring people like maybe the most pivotal version of Merlin, maybe Solomon if you consider that occult side from his background. Seimei is also somebody that's stuck in NPC jail. We seen him in Heian. That's before becoming an actual servant, where his abilities should technically be more pronounced depending on how they go about it. Now, considering the release of Remnant, I would have figured that Seimei would have popped up there, given the time frame and also what they decided to focus on. But since we ended up getting his descendant, which is also fine, I'm looking at it like, when are they gonna do it now? And that's kind of how I always feel when they miss the mark to include a character. They didn't do it in Heian, they didn't do it in the main canon of Remnant. Is he gonna be in the DLC? Is he gonna come in the latter half of FGO 3? What's the deal here? Because realistically, it has to fit within the narrative. Now, him being a Japanese servant, he has a better chance than anybody because that's where fate comes from. We're still likely to get a random event and they just throw him in it, and that would be completely fine. It just seems like there has already been more fitting places to do so, and if they were going to do it, they would have done it already. But we'll see. We've definitely been owed that man for quite some time. The next one, Sun Wukong, the Monkey King. No, not Ritsuka cosplaying him in the 2 CEs does not count. The real Vortigern from Proper Human History, and not Mothman. See, these are good. Sun Wukong is somebody that Type Moon has been cooking up for a long time, going all the way back to Fate Koha Ace, the April Fool's comic that came out back in 2012. And we've literally had joke depictions of him, if people don't know. To go even further than that, El Malloy has also been cooking up with his background. Ergo is a composite entity that was created back at Atlas that's comprised of multiple people, and one of those aspects is Sun Wukong himself. And because of his involvement, we actually now have a depiction of what his character looks like. And by the way, El Malloy, both the Case Files and the Adventures, is by far one of the most slept on pieces in Type Moon, period. I really wish they gave it the time of day to give it more adaptations, because it's really consistent and it's consistently good. Looking at the myth of Sun Wukong, we know that a lot like Herc, Wukong was said to be a damn near impenetrable force no matter who you ask. And I feel so bad that I left him out that Berserker video because I had him in mind, but it slipped. Not only should we have Wukong as a Berserker, but he should be for sure one of the Grand Berserker candidates, given his background and journey to the West. It's just one of those things that he's so powerful, I'm not exactly sure how they want to do it. And that's likely the reason that they created Ergo, because that's probably one of the only ways we can get him. And I really like the way that Ergo is designed, so I can't really say that I'm mad at that, but we definitely should have him. Vortigern, also a really good choice. Going back to the Garden of Avalon, Vortigern was supposed to be damn near unbeatable while being jumped by some of the most powerful spirits that we have across a great span of time. Now, I myself love what they did with the Oberon Vortigern mix, but I wouldn't be mad if we got him too. Also wouldn't be mad if we got Lucius. Same thing. Those are just some of those people that are often unspoken of. We hear about them in Prototype, but we need to actually see that in FGO. The next comment, we have Jason, Heracles, Achilles, Medusa, Andromeda, so many Greek heroes, but we don't have the first of them all, Perseus. Now, prior to this time, I would have completely agreed, but given the fact that they just released Andromeda, which is his wife, I'm looking at that like this is a play up to him coming out. So I'm not gonna complain about Perseus too much. I think they definitely have him in the works. And we know this to be true. We've been through this on the channel already. They data mined Perseus years ago, like way back when. We know that he exists, they just haven't put him out yet. He's also in Fate Prototype, actually. So all they would have to do is just transfer his character over. It's not even like they would have to build it up from scratch. Genghis Khan. I've been saying him for forever. Genghis freaking Khan, the man who created one of the largest empires in human history. Everybody should know him by now. Facts. I'm glad he said that too, because I just thought about it. Genghis Khan being from the East as a force that drove into the Western world, he also might be one of the most popular people to ever exist. Because usually it's the other way around. Usually it's West going into East. But for Genghis Khan to be East going into West, you can't help but for most people to know about him. The thing with Genghis Khan is probably the thing with everybody else of that stature. Too controversial. But to me, again, he's not any more controversial than a lot of the people that's already been put into the series that's been watered down. Alexander the Great, Nero, Attila the Hun. So I don't see why they would stop at him. The Fuhrer is also in Koha Ace, and I brought this up before in the Discord. They don't say him in name actually because he's too controversial. They just call him a quote-unquote body double, but it's the Fuhrer. Cyrus the Great is another, but I think he's not as well known in certain parts of the world. Yeah, Cyrus being the person that founded the Persian Empire is huge. Personally, I'm more familiar with the Dariuses and Xerxes, but I don't see why we don't have him yet. As the creator, he can't have any less relevance than the other kings. Another name to add, Pharaoh Tut, Child King of Egypt. somewhat well known. Yep, when I think about pharaohs, some of the first people that I think of is Ramses and King Tut. Then we have the Abrahamic prophets like Adam, Abraham, etc. Exactly. And I said that at the beginning of the video. A lot of biblical figures, all the archangels. It makes sense, but narrative wise, where do they go now? Like, we already have Moses. He's in Prototype. We've seen him depicted alongside Ozzy already. It's just that he doesn't get nearly as much press as he would if he were put into FGO. The thing is, I'm not gonna lie, there are some characters that I would rather not even touch FGO because I'm already knowing what's about to happen. Moses is kind of different because he's already made. All they would have to do is transfer. But if they do it from the ground up, you might end up with Odysseus' situation where they turn him into a Power Ranger, because why not? You know, not a big name, but I thought it would be nice to bring awareness to this mythical figure, King Gesara of Tibet. Think of him as Tibet's King Arthur, or India's Rama, or China's Sun Wukong. His epic is apparently very long. So for Gesara, the Buddhist tone of a number of passages in the epic can thus be explained as an attempt at exploiting its popularity among the nomads and peasants of Tibet to spread the Buddhist doctrine further. At a more esoteric level, Gesara's battles are sometimes represented as a symbol of the Buddhist followers' struggle toward enlightenment. And I can already see this working its way into the Chinese spirits that we already have. We have a bunch of Buddhist figures already. We had the literal Buddha himself back in Fate Extra. This would just add on to it. The next one, still waiting on Strange Fake to finish so Alcides can finally be added. Strange Fake is a gold mine of characters, really hoping we see a lot of them come over to FGO. Yeah, the Strange Fake present is criminal. I'm happy that at the very least we got Enkidu. I want Thea Escardos, I want the Horseman of Pestilence, Richard the Lionheart, my dog. Come on, man. The next one, OG Santa. How do you make 7 Christmas events and still don't?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. The OG Santa. Santa to me is such a big thing that again, between myself and my friends who are also Fate servants, we have actually like fan made Santa as a servant because of the fact that, you know, I kind of like talked them into it because it's like, look, dude, how can you not have Santa as a servant? Like, especially as a writer, like, and also here's the thing, I'm a huge, like, of Santa Claus, my favorite reindeer is Rudolph, so, you know me, I made Santa a writer, and he has Rudolph, alright, he has Rudolph, it's a, like, so, that's a thing, so he has, like, his own version of, like, that skill that allows him to transverse without getting lost because that's a whole, again, that goes with the myth of Rudolph, that, you know, that Santa was so close on canceling Christmas because, you know, he literally could not navigate, even though he's Santa Claus and has done this for generations prior. The storm was just too bad that Santa Claus literally could not navigate through the storm. But it was through Rudolph's nose that he was able to perfectly navigate the world, no matter what storm came his way. And so, you know, you add that as a skill to Writer Santa, where basically it is almost impossible, if not completely impossible, for him to ever truly get lost, navigating anywhere because of Rudolph's nose shining the way. But yeah, Santa Claus, Kris Kringle, Father Christmas. How do you not do it? How do you not do it? And it's not like, again, let's not pretend it's not like Japan doesn't know about Santa Claus. Oh no, like, people should look up. Japan throws some banger ass fucking Christmas celebrations. Like, Japan loves Christmas nearly as much, if not completely as much as we do here in the West. Like, Japan goes all out for Christmas, right? They love Christmas. So it's not like they don't know about Santa Claus. Oh, they fucking know. Right? Japanese children revere Santa Claus as much as we do here in the West. So, again, it's not as if it's not as if Nasu, as a child, did not know about Santa Claus. Oh, he fucking knew. I'm just waiting for them to fucking pull that trigger. Because, yes, give me motherfucking Santa Claus.
Release the Santa, and the next guy says Grand Rider Santa win. I've seen a lot of people bring this up. This is also very valid. I feel like Santa is one of the few people that will also cross into the other side of the world. Even if you don't know about him, you've at least heard of him, because with the infatuation and just the outright general push on everybody else, you kind of can't escape Santa, Christmas, Jesus, so on and so forth. I don't even know how we don't have a Santa that's NPC locked at the very least. Given how much time that we've spent in the game so far, that should have been like one of the big shebangs. Hey, you've been through all these other events, here's the real Santa. I want Sinbad to be an actual servant. He's too well known to be reduced to a phantasm. And he's Scheherazad's phantasm, by the way. He's actually one of those 1,000 stories that she told. Yeah, he's definitely famous enough. As a matter of fact, out of those 1,000 stories that she told, he would be one of, if not the story at the forefront for sure, which is crazy to consider when you think about how much that is to go through. Even though not entirely thematically suited for young ones, most children brought up in Southeast Asia and the Middle East are familiar with these stories. Some of the most popular tales are familiar across the world, including those of Sinbad the Sailor, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, and of course, Aladdin and his lamp. I can't believe I've never seen anybody bring up Aladdin, and you know it's over here because Disney got a hold of a lot of these. So people literally grew up on this, even on this side. The whole line, way too popular.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching. And thank you guys for, subscribing and everything. And please subscribe if you haven't and all that good stuff. I am Otakushinsaku. Thank you guys for, sticking with me and all that good stuff. And I am saying, have a great day, have a great evening, whatever it is.